Hello again, beautiful people. This is Natalie Silva with Life Treasures and Golden Moments. And whenever you come to listen, I'm always sharing with you true stories of miracles and stories of inspiration. Today, I'd like to share a story about renewal. We all need to have renewal every now and then in our hearts and in our spirits. When things go wrong, something to uplift us and give us some hope for the future. Today is such a story written by Mary Hollingsworth, and it's called Lost and Found. I hope you enjoy it. As I entered the church auditorium on that somber Thursday morning in 1981, strains of Elvis singing Crying in the Chapel waved through the air, muffling the sobs of friends and church members. The sweet, sickening fragrance of carnations and various other flowers, combined with the familiar smells of the room where I'd worship regularly, they assaulted me with reminders that death was present. Funerals were nothing new to me. My dad, a minister all my life, had not only conducted many funerals, but he had also worked with funeral homes through the years. As a result, I had been singing for memorial services since I was a junior in high school. When I was in high school, I had even lived in one of the old house funeral homes so prominent in the South. You know, the kind, a big stately white house with huge wraparound porch supported by traditional colonial pillars, surrounded by giant oak trees and neatly trimmed hedges. And the one where I lived, the funeral home was downstairs, and I stayed with the funeral director and his wife upstairs for a few months. It actually a time that I remember fondly because Ray and Nona Murray were two of the happiest people I'd ever known. I've often thought it was because they spent their lives serving others and being blessed in return by God. So funerals and funeral homes didn't bother me usually, but today it seemed different somehow. This was the funeral of a 10-year-old boy, rather than an older person who had lived a full life. The death of a child always seems out of time, upside down, and unfair. And I wondered, why would God take the life of a 10-year-old? He still had so much to do, so many reasons to live. What an incredible loss. After speaking to several of our church members and friends, I left the auditorium and joined the other singers in the Sunday school classroom where we were to practice the songs we had been asked to sing for the service. Everyone sat quietly, trying to keep their emotions together and prepare their minds and hearts to lend what comfort we could to the family through our singing. As I waited silently for the director to join us, my mind reviewed the previous few days. Little Justin was on spring break from school, so his dad, Bill, and Bill's friend, Tony, had taken Justin on a hunting trip in the heavy wooded area outside the city. They had enjoyed a whole day together doing guy stuff, trampling through the woods, shooting at various targets and game, eating a picnic lunch, and then hiking back to where they had left the pickup truck earlier in the day. Justin had been the center of attention and loved every minute of it. It was the kind of a day that memories are made of, an unforgettable day. Bill told us that after lunch the skies had begun to cloud over. As the day wore on, it became first grayer and then progressively darker. The smell of rain filled the air, and the wind was kicking up, so they had picked up their pace to try and get to the truck before the rain started. By the time the hunters arrived at the truck, a serious storm had developed. Lightning electrified the skies overhead with jagged streaks, and thunder was starting to pop and rumble nearby. Bill and Tony had become concerned about being out in the open in the storm and were moving as fast as they could. As Bill opened the big cattle gate to the meadow they had crossed to get to the woods, it began to rain in earnest. The three guys hurried through the gate, and Bill told Justin to run on ahead and get into the truck so he wouldn't get soaked by the rain. Meanwhile, Tony stayed to help Bill close and latch the heavy gate. Following his dad's direction, Justin ran to the pickup, climbed in the front seat, and scooted to the middle of the bench seat so Tony could get in when he came. But just as Bill and Tony turned to run to the pickup, a massive lightning bolt struck the cab of the pickup with a direct hit. The pickup exploded into a giant fireball, knocking Bill and Tony to the ground. Little Justin was killed instantly. He truly never knew what had hit him. Bill was devastated, of course, and he felt guilty for having sent Justin to the truck by himself, even though it was a sound and wise decision at the time. Worse yet, he then had to go home and tell his wife, Joni, that their precious only son was dead. Tony was also crushed emotionally. Surely there was something I could have done, he moaned to himself. How could something like this happen? How? Joni had been a faithful member of our church for so many years. She came consistently, bringing her little Justin to Sunday school and Wednesday night Bible class. She was often involved in the ladies' programs and regularly volunteered to help with events and activities. She seemed to be secure in her faith and strong in her convictions. Bill, however, had never come to church much. His faith seemed weak, and he refused to get involved in any of the church functions or activities. Once in a while, he would show up for a fellowship game night or other fun event, but that was about all. He just didn't seem to have any use for the church. When the church members became aware of Justin's death, they responded with a great outpouring of love and concern. They did everything they could think of to comfort and console Joni and Bill and the rest of their family. Fixing food, running errands, picking up family at the airport, and praying with them, and much more. Joni accepted their gifts of love and care with gratitude. But Bill, who had never seen or experienced such grace and care before, was overwhelmed by the members' generosity and healing touch. The next few days went by in an emotional blur for Joni and Bill. They functioned in numbed automatic mode, calling family and friends, making funeral arrangements, housing arrangements for incoming family, and trying just to cope with the reality of Justin's loss and the idea of going on without him. My heart broke for them as I watched, feeling helpless to do anything significant. We made it through the heart-wrenching service somehow, singing the tender songs selected by Joni, listening to the album of Elvis songs, Justin's favorite, and hearing the words of strength and comfort from the Bible the minister delivered with such gentleness and love. The auditorium was packed with Justin's little church friends and schoolmates, sobbing their hearts out for their lost friend, even though not really grasping the whole situation. It's one of the most difficult funerals I had ever attended. Over the next few days and weeks, though, the hand of God began to write a surprise ending to this tragedy. Bill began coming to church with Joni regularly. Sometimes they sat and held hands. Sometimes they cried. But they came, and before long, Bill gave his heart and life back to the Lord. When I asked him what brought him back, he said, it was the love of the Christians here and seeing the incredible power of God in that storm. I've just never seen anything like it, either of them before. These people had such true concern for Joni and me. They weren't faking it either. I could tell. It was the real thing, and it touched me deeply. So how could I ignore that God who prompts people to love like that? I want to learn how to do that for other people too. As I hugged Bill and then walked away that day, tears streamed down my face, and I thought, is the story of lost and found? Little Justin may have been lost to this life, but he has flown into the arms of God, and his dad has been found forever. Then I remembered the words to an old hymn. They will know we are Christians by our love, by our love. And I smiled as I wiped the tears from my eyes. As our author Mary shared in her introduction of the story, sometimes folks look in a mirror and they see the years creeping up on them. A few laugh lines here and around the eyes, your hair's thinning a bit, and a sight that's not as sharp as it once was. Still, those who are in tune with God are basically happy from day to day. Getting older isn't scary or frustrating to them. It's just a natural part of life. And those of us who are younger find great comfort in their obvious inward feeling of well-being, in spite of what their bodies may no longer be able to do. It reminds me of the scripture that says, "We do not lose heart, though outwardly we are wasting away. Yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day." Renewal is definitely a gift from God. We see it every spring when the trees bud out and green and the flowers burst in vibrant colors. We see it in the dimples and captivating smile of a newborn baby. We see it in the radiant faces of people that are in love, both young and old. And we hear it in exuberant songs of praise to God, who renews us inwardly with His Spirit, His grace, and His joy. The next time you look in the mirror, see if the God of renewal is looking back through your sparkling eyes. Ask Him to fill your heart with joy and to help you feel new every morning. His love and care are miraculous buoys for our lives. They keep us afloat, and in the turbulent seas we sail from birth until death. And they make the journey a joy and delight. This is Natalie Silva. I hope you enjoyed our story today. And until next time, have a beautiful week. Take care, and may God bless.